Welcome to our Thursday afternoon sessions of our conference, our Fatima Your Last Chance conference. Again, just a reminder to please shut off all cell phones so there's no disturbance of the speakers, especially the next speaker, a special guest, Archbishop John Barwa, as the Archbishop of Orissa Diocese in India, a place where just a few years ago there was an intense, bloody persecution of Christians. So he's going to tell us about that in this presentation. Please welcome Archbishop Barwa from India.
Good afternoon, and my topic is persecution of Christians and Catholics in Orissa. That is one part of India, one state, and not the full state that faced the persecution, but one district in my archdiocese called Kandhamal, which has 7,650 square kilometers of area, and population of that area is 650,000. Of course, my archdiocese total population is 11 million. Out of 11 million, 70,000 are Catholics. And here live mostly Dalits and the tribals. Dalits are those belonging to the lowest category or class of people in the Hindu caste society. And tribals do not belong to this Hindu caste society, but they are known as original settlers of the land. And these are the people living in this part of the country. And why the persecution in this part to these people, and especially this part is the poorest in India. Orissa is the poorest state in India that faced the persecution in 2007 Christmas Day and 2008 August and September, in the month of August and September. When the missionaries came to this land, the Vincentians, they realized that these people, especially the Dalits and the tribals, need the attention, need the missionary presence, and they worked in their midst. First of all, priority was education, healthcare, and social development. And because of these efforts of the missionaries, these people, tribals and Dalits, rather Dalits and tribals, came up in life. They got into good jobs. They got into business, and their life standard became higher, which the rich, high Brahmin people could not tolerate. They started saying that if the people of this category come up in life and their children get education, what would happen to their children of the rich people? What would they doing? Because they cannot come down to these people's level to work all this menial job. And that's why missionaries became the targets. Catholics became the targets because of the Catholic institutions, Christian institutions, these people were educated. That was first reason. And they gave the reason of persecution that they are forcefully converting these people, tribals and Dalits, into Christianity. That was the reason given for persecution. Second one is, when the persecution took place, there was a fundamentalist government in the state called BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, a fundamentalist group. So they know that if they have to come to power, they need votes. And these Dalits and tribals do not vote for them, but they vote for Congress party. So these BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party people realized that these people's presence, Dalits and tribals' presence, will not allow them to be in the power. Better to eliminate them. So these are the few of the reasons. There are many more. They contemplated for many years, and it was a contemplated, well-planned action done on Christmas Day 2007. On 24th of December, a Hindu fundamentalist leader was passing through a village when our people were preparing the crib for Christmas celebration. And this particular leader, because it was planned, got down and went to see the crib, and there was little tussle because he made a comment, and with that started attacking on Christians. And in 3 parishes, they destroyed mostly our shops, Christians and Catholic shops, so that because main business is done on Christmas, mostly by Catholics, so that they do not get into the business and business stops of the Christians and others, rich people's business and shop functions. But this lasted only one day. Then again, 2008, August 13th, 23rd, this particular sannyasi or the sacred man or seer of the Hindus, these are all fundamentalist Hindus. Not all the Hindus are bad. These are the fundamentalist group. This particular man was killed by night. And Maoist, Communist Party Marxists, they claimed that they have killed that man. But blame came to us, that we Catholics killed this seer or the religious leader, and they started attacking us, saying that we are the responsible people, we have killed him, we have made a plan and we killed him, which is not true at all. All these Maoists, rather Marxist Party, Communist Party Marxist, they claimed, they owned up the responsibility of killing that leader. And a massive attack took place, especially on Christians. And it lasted for the whole month of August and September. And in this, 93 Catholics were killed, 6,500 houses were burnt and destroyed totally, 350 churches, 45 health centers, and many convents and institutions were destroyed, and 50,000 people became homeless because all their houses were destroyed. And these people, our people, had to live in the forest. It was rainy time, it was very cold time, yet they lived. Since the government was a coalition government of the fundamentalist group, they did not take any interest on us. But finally, we received help from all of you, from different countries, nations, good-willed people, and we have built. I became Archbishop of that particular area, and I took charge of the responsibility of the Archdiocese 2nd April 2011. Till then I was bishop in another diocese. And after taking over the responsibility of the diocese, I visited every corner of this archdiocese, every village. I met all the fathers, sisters, people, those who were out of their houses, every place. And I talked to them, met them, shared their agonies and pain. One voice was very clear. They said like this, Archbishop, we have lost everything. We have lost our homes. We have lost our property. We have lost even our beloved ones. But we are proud to say we have not lost Jesus. Because, why they said this? Because this particular leader of the fundamentalist Hindu groups, that was Lakshmanananda Saraswati, he was shouting around that we will finish up the Christians from this land. There will be no Christian existence here in this part of the country. And he was openly declaring that he takes the responsibility of wiping out the Christians from that land. And because of that, when I visited all these my people, they had only one voice. Archbishop, we have lost everything. We have lost property. We have lost our houses. But we have not lost Jesus. And we will not lose our Jesus. And this is the clear, loud voice of my people. And I visit every now and then, especially where I am living, though it belongs to the same archdiocese. It takes me 6 hours by road, though roads are not that good, but at the same time not bad. I can travel 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers per hour, and it takes me 6 hours. It is far away land. It is full of forest, jungles, mountains, and not very thickly populated. Only mostly tribals and Dalits live. But at the same time, richly natural resources filled area. And this is our understanding that they want to finish up these tribals and Dalits from that area so that these rich minerals and all this becomes theirs, multinationals. But at the same time, today we believe our God is with us. And I believe only she can help us. Why I say this? Because in our land, Mother Goddess, Amma, Ma, this has a first place in our life. Wherever there is Mother Mary's devotion organized, hundreds and thousands of people flock because we love Mother, Amma, Ma. And we believe she is the one who has given life, and she is the one who has fed us from her own life. That's why wherever there is Mother Mary's devotion organized, thousands flock. I invited Cardinal Telesphore Placidius Topo, one of the 3 cardinals in India who lives in that part of country, for a Marian shrine celebration. And hundreds of thousands of people flocked. And they have one slogan to tell the world and tell the people of other faith, and especially those fundamentalists, that we are not frightened people. You can't take away Christ from us, and you can't remove Mother's love from us. So they always make it as solemn possible, because they want to clearly say to the world, and especially these people, those who want to destroy us, that you will never succeed in destroying us. You will never succeed removing us from our beloved Mother Mary, and much more from our God. So Now I am more often there in this part of the country, of my diocese, and I spend all my time there. What about the constructions and rehabilitations it is done? We have built churches, we have built institutions, we have built our health centers, all that is built except the remotest areas. And that fundamental group, BJP, collapsed. BJP got only one seat in that whole area and they lost miserably. Their plan was like in Gujarat. They create a fear sensation, fearful atmosphere, and they win the vote. In Gujarat, they got high majority. But in my place, they got only one seat. They could win only one seat. That's the way they lost miserably. And I came as the Archbishop of the Archdiocese, and I am accepted well because I was bishop in Rourkela, of course, the same Orissa state, and I was brought to this Archdiocese, and people accepted me because I am from that land, from these people. So they say, son of the soil has become first Archbishop of the land. So for everyone, I am a proud person. I also feel great that I am with my people speaking the same language. Whenever I go to meet the head of the government, they always say, oh, first Archbishop from among our people, let us talk with the heart of our people. And this is what always they feel, and I too feel proud to be with my people, to talk their language and to talk their sadness and gladness. I have met practically all the leaders, political leaders. Last several times I was with the governor. Like when we had our Christmas gathering, lot of journalists and press people, we were sitting together with the governor, I was sitting with all my episcopal dress. Then the press people, journalists asked me this question, Bishop, Archbishop, what is the strength of you Christians and Catholics? I said, our faith in God, our love of Mother Mary is our strength. We take pride in our faith, and Mother Mary will never leave us. Then they ask, what is your weakness? And I spontaneously, with one, like a lightning, my response answer was, our division. Bhubaneswar, the capital city of Orissa where I live, there are 74 denominations. And in sincerity, that is our weakness. Though I am considered as head of the Orissa church belonging to all these denominations, I am finding very difficult to get unity and become a united force. In Orissa, we are 10 bishops. Of course, I am apostolic administrator of another diocese and archbishop here. With me taking 2 places, we are 5 Catholic bishops and 5 Protestant other bishops, CNI and all. I call them for meetings. I call them for sharings. Often we meet. Often we come to share, plan out and implement the plannings. But when it comes to projects, finance, to be more true, finance, it becomes difficult. I can vouch for every pie that we receive. I can give every clear picture, every detailed explanation of every pie that I receive. But it becomes very difficult for me to talk in this language with my counterparts. That becomes the difficulty, and that is my problem and our problem, because in this city 74 churches is really a problem. And I believe we need to work more and more for the unity of the sons and daughters of our beloved Mother Mary. The slogan that is said now, we have not lost Jesus and we will not lose it. Faith, hope, confidence grows. Not only that, the vocations, quality vocations. And this year alone, I had 33 ordinations. I ordained, and when we conduct vocation camps for the boys, for the girls, including Rome, priests, nuns come for vocation recruitment. And in my both dioceses, this year we had 700 boys and 613 girls joining the vocation camps for recruitment. Here also I would like to say the reality. I want my sons and daughters to become a committed, dedicated, convinced religious priest in the world. And true to it, I am meeting wherever I go, people, once upon a time it was Kerala. That had very high number of vocations, and especially Diocese of Palai, which had #1 vocations in India. But today it has shifted to my place, tribal land, especially Rourkela, where there are mostly these tribals live and the vocation is very high. I want to grow this number of vocations to religious life, priestly life, but it should be a quality, not just a quantity, but to make it more realities. The story is, because of growing numbers of priests and religious coming from different parts of the country and including the world, today it is becoming more and more of a business. There is a competition to take away. If a sister meets 3 girls and if she is out for some other reasons, not taking the girls, following morning they are gone with some other sisters. These are the things happening, which for me is a painful. Which means together with all these good works and good spirit flowing, also there is devil working, Satan working very, very powerful, very powerfully. What we need, I believe, our Mother Mary, whom we have great love, devotion and commitment, she will surely help us. Here I want to say that when the persecution we faced, my feeling was like this. Like the example that in India we speak about sandalwood tree. Sandalwood tree, a very intuitive one. It says, even the axe that cuts the tree to fell it is smeared with its exfoliating and soothing fragrance. Significance is quite Christian. For the very best of the sandalwood tree, its fragrance is bestowed first upon the axe that cuts, wounds, and fells it, next on the holder of the axe, and still more on the bystanders. Even when the axe holder is annihilating the tree, cutting down the tree, it is an illustration of Christian experience and perception of God. good material for reflection by the Christian community wherever it is placed and wherever it lives. And this is what is happening. Persecution has made us strong, and today, though there are other fundamentalist group, people are blaming us that we are converting, and it is true. Number of conversions growing higher every day. Our difficulty, Orissa is the one state which has anti-conversion bill passed. We cannot baptize a person unless we have all the systematic permission from the civil authorities. Problem is, there are hundreds flocking, and they are asking Archbishop, every day they are asking, Archbishop, we are waiting this long, that long, what should we do? Of course, in our land, we were supposed to ask legal permission, written permission from the collector and SP, from the court, but we do not do that. We only get from the local authorities affidavit declaring the person that it is my free will, that I want to embrace this Christianity, this faith, and there is no compulsion, no allurement, nothing, my own free will. And it is, affidavit is made, and we baptize them. Number is growing. And I know I myself, being a tribal man, for us to accept Jesus is more easier than to go anywhere else, because they say, people, this fundamentalist and all other groups say that we were Hindus, but we never. We belong to animist spirit worshipping group, and we were tired of worshipping too many spirit everywhere. If there is a problem in the family or anywhere surroundings, we thought some spirit somewhere is unhappy, and it was a very difficult thing, life for us to please all the spirits under the sun. Then missionaries came and started saying, telling us there is one God who loves unconditionally, and He is the God who loves, full of love. All these spirits are powerless in front of Him. For us, it was a new revelation. When we realized God's love, we just embraced Christianity, and thousands we have embraced Christianity. And it is not just embracing Christianity, I can say. We are convinced, committed, totally faithful Christians, ready to die for faith. Not just Christians by faith. We don't live in the reasons. Okay, I can understand the way we are reasoning out, talking only on publications and books, but for us what matters is the heart. Convinced, emotions, feelings, sentiments, and that's what matters for us most. And we are convinced God loves us, we love God. May come whatever in life, we will remain firm in our faith, and God will protect us. Mother Mary will save us. And this faith has made us what we are today. Emergency relief finished. We have built, I said 6,500 houses were destroyed. We have built almost more than 5,600, almost 6,000 houses are built, except in the remotest areas. And people, 50,000, those who had left the houses, homes, and gone to different places, all are back, except those who wanted to stay out for varieties of livelihood and all. Other than them, rest all are back to their homes. Churches are reconstructed. thanks be to all of you and also to government which paid. We built one house costing 80,000 rupees, and we paid 50,000 rupees, government paid 30,000 rupees. Now we have filed a case that more money should be granted. And many of those people who organized, here also another thing we need to understand, that those people who participated in killing and destruction and disturbances, they were mostly local people, instigated by people from outside and given drinks and alcohols and drugs. When we talk to them and meet them, they say that we never knew what it means, what we are doing. They are very clearly telling us now, and they are asking pardon and forgiveness. Many of them leaders come and ask us, would you forgive us? And I tell them, to my people, they say like this, we are people of forgiveness, we are people of love, we are people of peace. Whatever you have done, okay, we cannot forget for life. We cannot, but we have forgiven you. And let us live in peace and harmony, because this is what is our life and this is our message. And we are building up. I am confident we will build up a peaceful Kandhamal and Orissa, surely and certainly. Many of them ask, what is the strength that you have to stand this way? What makes you strong and stand the persecutions and difficulties? We have one answer. It is God's love and Mother Mary's love. Other than that, we have nothing else. We have smaller houses. My people do not have big accounts. Nothing seriously that type. But one thing, my people have smiles all the time. And if you visit them, my people, I can only vouch, they may not offer big riches, but surely hospitality and making others guest. In our language we say Atithi, means someone who comes without declaring the time. They are God's presence and will take care in a maximum and best possible way, because for us, guests, visitors are Atithi, those who come without any declaration of time and arrival. They are God's representative and we need to take care of them. And we'll do that in our best possible way, because that is our culture. And another great thing I can say, that there is a jealousy. Though in India we Christians are 2.06%, but in our CBCI Catholic Bishops Conference and everywhere we clearly, loudly say it, because we know it. We fulfill the mission of quality education, healthcare and social development activities of 25%. Because there is a commitment, there is a dedication, there is a conviction and surrendering to ourselves to God. As I said, many ask, where do we get strength from? And our answer is, Jesus said, a house built on a rock can stand every assault and even offer shelter. Love, compassion, forgiveness and sacrificial service are components of that rock. And so the church is expected to proffer shelter even to the assailant. Overcome evil by good. when so much hostility and suffering was demonstrated to the Christians in Kandhamal, my state, my archdiocese, it is not very pleasant to start to say that things are easy, things are pleasant. However, we must not be overawed by the enormity of evil. We must always remain steadfast in the core of the faith, even when it is very dark, painful, and bitter, even humiliating. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, even when he was down and kicked on the face and lost the tooth, is reported to have asked the assailant, "Is your feet hurt?" We believe in non-violence. When all these people attacked us, 50,000 people, instead of leaving homes, going to forest, we could have also done. We could have retaliated. There could have been more bloodshed. And we know both would have died. And we would have maybe died less because we know the forests, we know the situations, and would have hit and killed more them than we dying. But we allowed them. We did not retaliate. We said, let devil do its work now. But surely we will overcome. Because today our song there, I sing always, we shall overcome. Of course, I sing in Hindi, Hum honge kamyab. This is my national language. My English may not be that good because I speak there 7 languages at home. National language, state language, my father and mother's language, school language, so there are so many languages. And India has 16 official languages. So I hope and believe you are understanding my English. But I sing always, Hum honge kamyab. We shall overcome someday. And we sing in Hindi like this, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन, ओ मन में है विश्वास, दृढ़ है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन. We'll overcome. If not that day, if not today, I believe one day. And one day, I do not know when. But my people believe this, that we shall overcome. We shall overcome. That's why we never lose heart. And one diocese where I am apostolic administrator, population is 1,600,000 people. Catholics are 200, little more than 250,000, and similar number of Protestants. That is one group, all tribals. And that is the success story of that part of country. A Dutch missionary, Constant Levens, came to us, learnt our language, and liberated us, because we experienced the liberation, liberated us from the spirits and liberated us from the landlords. Because for us tribals, land, property, world do not belong to any human being, any individual. Everything belongs to God, because it is He who has created us. We clear the land, cultivate the land, we do not own the land. But system of the government is measure, make all these plots and give ownership. We own as a community, and that's the way we never, our grandfathers never owned the land, lost everything and became all the more pauper. This missionary came, learnt our language, liberate us from liberated us from the spirits and liberated us from these owners of the land or masters, because he learned the law of the land and won the cases because it was our land. That's the way hundreds and thousands of us accepted Catholics. Today they are saying that we are Hindus, and they are saying that you are foreigners because these people, missionaries, came from foreign land and converted you. We have never got converted. We accepted with our faith, with our conviction, with joy and happiness, which nobody else could do for us. It is God's love, it is God's chosen people, missionaries, who worked for us and gave their life for us. If not God sent these missionaries to work totally with the love for us, who else? So that land has, and this where I am now, I said 70,000 Catholics, and little more than us is the Protestants, belonging to varieties of denominations. Actually, as I was saying, these are the problems. They become more fundamentalist than the real fundamentalist group themselves, because the way they speak, these denominations, the way they propagate, the way they speak in the marketplace and everywhere, maybe they say they get money. No one has ever given me money to convert someone into Christianity, because I do not believe so. Though I am blamed today that conversion I am doing, I am trying to talk in the louder language, clearer language, that this is not our way. God doesn't want numbers. Christians, Catholics, 80,000, 90,000, 250,000. For us, it makes no sense unless there is a change of heart, change of life, change of behavior. And this persecution has brought us to this understanding that it is not the number. If we are able to stand persecution, stand suffering, stand killing and butchering. Few examples I want to give what happened during the persecution. One of my young boy of 18 years, traveling by a bus. They searched his bag and found a Bible in his bag. Pulled him out and said, "Will you give up Jesus?" That boy said, "Never." They dug a pit and alive they buried, little by little, asking him, "Will you give up Jesus?" This man said, "Kill me, kill me and bury me." They said, "No." They buried him alive. Which we ourselves, of course, that particular moment we are not there, but we know this is the reality. Another man, our catechist, he was caught with his wife and a child. Then they said, "This is the master, this is the teacher who teaches, goes to the villages, every village, and proclaims Christ." So they pulled him, beat him, and tied his hand and kept his wife close by and said, "See, here is your wife and child." And holding a big stone in front of him, asked him, "Will you give up Jesus? Otherwise, see this stone. That the way we'll finish you up." This man said, "I have accepted my Jesus. I will not give up." Several times they asked, they kicked, nothing happened. Finally, they dropped the big stone on his head. Surely he died, and he has to die. Then they asked his wife, "You saw what happened to your husband. Now, will you give up Jesus? You saw your husband's fate. It will happen to you if you do not give up Jesus." This lady said, If my husband has died for the faith in God, the God who has made us and God who loves us, I will not give up, do whatever you want. This kind of courage, and these are the women when we brought them to Delhi for a public testimony, crying, but loudly, clearly saying what exactly happened to them. Of course, this lady still survives, tells to the world what has happened to her for the faith. There are hundreds of living examples which I can elaborate, but these are the realities. And the courageous testimony, courageous faith manifested is wonderful. I can only say like this. We have lost, my people have lost Jesus, property. My people lost, not now, my people lost houses, but today they are happy, joyous. This is another secret is this. Those who took lead in killing and persecuting, we don't understand, neither anyone understands. Most of them dying. For what sickness and all, doctors themselves don't understand. Mysterious sickness coming, but we don't wish that they die, but things are happening, which they themselves don't want to say, neither we want to say. We say, okay, if it happens, if it is God's design, let it happen. Another interesting thing, after all these houses were destroyed, since these are all forests and a lot of elephants are there in the jungles, a big number of elephants came and destroyed a big number of houses, and people started saying, Christian elephants. We have not that. Because maybe we say like this, because you destroyed our houses, Catholics and Christian houses, there were no Christian houses to be destroyed. Finally, elephants found whatever houses they destroyed. This is the way we answer. But they say these elephants are also Christian elephants. Maybe. This is the way, if they look at this way, wonderful. But many, many more of these kind of things are happening. We see God manifesting His presence, but we never say it is God who is doing it. We say just things are happening. Those who took leadership, it is for us very difficult to understand how they are dying. Most of them are dead. And my own niece, a religious nun, it was in the paper, and you will be hearing the name of a religious nun, Sister Meena Lalita Barua, who was gang raped in the public and with a priest of my diocese. I have sent him to another northeast to go Assam, that's it, so that he remains free and moves around, because he finds very difficult at this juncture in the archdiocese to move around. So when the mob came, they were in the pastoral center. They had destroyed totally the pastoral center, but we have made it down. It is functioning. So my niece, Sister Meena Lalita, and this priest, they were at the gunpoint, and all kind of hundreds of them, thousands of them gathered, and they said, have sex in the public. And these both, Father Chelan, originally from Kerala, and my niece said, kill us, but we'll never do that. And finally, they poured kerosene and to burn them, but somehow they did not burn. My niece, this nun, was gang raped in the public. And many of them, now, because government changed, 30 of them, they want to catch 30 of them. It is already done. It was 25th of August 2008 this happened. My niece Meena studied in the college, of course, not as a nun, but as an ordinary girl, because we wanted her to study, continue, and she got always the first class, did her best. She wants to also study law so that she can help these kind of women, those who go through terrible suffering. And she has identified those who were leader and who did this act of violence on her, and they are in jail. That way many of them are penalized, are in jail, and at the moment they are running, not we, they are running because police is catching them, so they are always on run, finding very difficult and all these things. But never, evil never leaves. This persecution finished, evil comes in other way. Now there is that underground people, we call them Maoists. Lot of them in my area are abducted, hijacked. Recently 2 Italians were hijacked, and I had to, everyone was pressurizing me to make a press release. Press release. I did it, of course, but then my problem, I am in a very fixed place. If I say anything on government, government gets offended and they corner me. If I say anything against these Maoist underground people, they corner me and my people find very difficult to survive. So we are in a fix, but we never lose hope. With all these things we say, we shall overcome. And the government people blame me and my people, Catholics and the head of the church, that we are supporting the Maoists, which we never do. When the police superintendent, head of the police, and all of them call me, come to me, meet me, and ask me, Bishop, why it is happening? My only answer is, have a better governance, develop the area, proper, better facilities for the people to live a better life, automatically things will change. Automatically things will change. And they are asking me to take all these developmental activities in that area. I said, I am not the responsible person for all this. Government, yes, you do, we will support. But at the same time it is tough. But I move always. I am always with my people in this area, and I know nothing will happen to me and to my people. God is with us. And finally I want to say, she will not leave us. Though in my place, this Fatima Mary, Madonna, has gone to every statue has gone to every village, every house, every corner. People know. But for us, not Fatima, Lourdes, we have our own beloved Mother Mary, Mother Mary of Velankani, Mother Mary of our own place. Mother Mary's devotion, love is very great. Surely we want Mother Mary's love to grow everywhere. If this is a order of Mother Mary, Fatima Mother, that this has to happen, should happen. Disobedience, I believe, brought confusion in our world, and disobedience will bring more confusion even today. But at the same time, Mother Mary's words should be followed and obeyed. But I can, as Archbishop in the hierarchy of the church, I can only say, because I have not much knowledge and information. For me, what matters is the love of God and devotion to our beloved Mother Mary. If this has to be done, it has to be done. But who should do? All of us should do. The whole church should do, not just by a group. And all of us should know and be convinced that this is the urgency and this is the need of the hour. And I am convinced all of us know, all of us feel, bishops, all of us feel that if it has to be done, it should be done. But it should be done with the consent, with the understanding, with the love of our beloved Mother, Mary. May Mother Mary bless us. May Mother Mary protect her church. May Mother Mary protect all her children. Thank you. God bless.
Pray a great deal and make sacrifices for sinners, for many souls go to hell because they have no one to make sacrifices and pray for them.
Our Lord said to Sister Lucia of Fatima, "The sacrifice that each one can make is to do his duty and obey my law. That is the form of penance I now demand.